So imagine stepping up to a microphone, right? You basically pour your heart out, telling the entire world to stop searching for external validation.
Yeah, to just look inward instead.
Exactly. And now imagine that message going so incredibly, undeniably viral that 250 million people watch it.
That is just, I mean, it's a staggering number.
Right. They look at you and they collectively decide, you know, this person is the ultimate guru of inner peace.
Which is a heavy label to carry.
It is. But here is the really devastating catch. Behind closed doors, you completely despise yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. So today we are taking a deep dive into what actually happens when your greatest professional triumph violently triggers your absolute darkest personal crisis.
It's such a profound paradox, really. I mean, we're looking at a real-life narrative today that completely dismantles how society views success.
Oh, absolutely.
It tears down this toxic pursuit of external validation, and it shows what it practically takes to build a relationship with yourself when all the cameras are finally off.
And to set the stage for you listening, we're following the journey of Adam Roa today. He's a globally recognized spoken word artist, a transformational coach, and, you know, just a creative visionary.
And the inciting incident of this entire breakdown, and eventual breakthrough, I should say, was a spoken word poem he released.
Right, the one called You Are Who You've Been Looking For.
Yes. And I mean, that title alone is just incredibly loaded. It's basically a definitive thesis statement about self-discovery.
It really doesn't leave much room for ambiguity.
Exactly. It is explicitly instructing the listener to stop outsourcing their self-worth to other people or to jobs or relationships.
Right.
And to realize that the fundamental acceptance they are, hunting for, it has to be generated internally.
And clearly, I mean, it was a message that a massive portion of humanity was utterly starved for.
Oh, 100%.
The piece resonated on a scale that is genuinely difficult to wrap your head around. It ended up touching and inspiring over 250 million viewers worldwide.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. That's like a massive slice of the global population engaging with this one singular raw piece of art.
Well, let's analyze why that specific resonance happens, right? Because when an artist articulates a profound universal pain.
Like a chronic lack of self-worth.
Exactly. When they articulate that and package it beautifully, the audience experiences this massive moment of catharsis.
They feel seen.
Yes. But human psychology does something very, very dangerous in that exact moment of catharsis. The audience naturally projects total mastery onto the creator.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. So because Adam wrote the beautiful poem about having it all figured out, we just automatically assume he actually has it all figured out?
That's it, exactly. We construct what you could call the illusion of arrival.
The illusion of arrival. I like that.
Yeah, society decides that because he can articulate the destination so vividly, he must permanently reside there.
Right, like he crossed the finish line of personal growth.
Right. We think he lives in this state of constant, unbroken enlightenment. And the metrics of his success, like that unprecedented viral reach, they basically create a gilded cage.
He becomes like the avatar for self-love.
Exactly. Which makes it almost impossible for him to admit he's struggling.
Oh, wait, hold on. I need to challenge this premise a bit because it feels a little counterintuitive to me.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Adam was internally struggling with self-worth, shouldn't overwhelming external praise actually, cure that?
You would think so, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you feel worthless and a massive global audience is universally telling you that you are brilliant and healing and profound, shouldn't that external love essentially fill up his internal void?
It is a completely logical question, but it totally misjudges how human psychology processes identity.
Okay, how so?
Well, let's look at the mechanism of cognitive dissonance. Our self-concept, like how we fundamentally view ourselves, it acts like this deeply entrenched, rigid filter in the brain. So if your core subconscious belief is, I am fundamentally flawed and unlovable.
Which is a heavy belief to carry.
Very heavy. And suddenly a massive crowd is screaming, no, you are perfect and enlightened. Your brain doesn't just cheerfully accept the new information.
So it rejects it?
It actively fights it. Your brain registers that incoming praise as a discrepancy, sometimes even as an outright threat.
Wait, really? A threat?
Yeah, it creates severe psychological friction. The internal dialogue just becomes, well, they only love the performance. If they actually knew the real me, they would be horrified.
Oh, wow.
So he starts feeling like, I have successfully tricked 250 million people.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. It's like being a world-famous architect who designs these beautiful, secure homes for everyone else, but you go home and you're sleeping in a leaky tent.
That is a perfect analogy.
The gap between what he was giving the world and what he was experiencing inside must have been incredibly jarring.
It was. The immune system basically rejected the transplant. That external validation couldn't act as a substitute for internal self-worth.
It just created a vacuum.
Exactly. And this is why sudden stratospheric fame often acts as an accelerant for personal crises. It doesn't necessarily change your core wounds.
It just puts them under a blinding spotlight.
Yes, and it multiplies the pressure to hide them.
Which I think brings us to the actual turning point of Adam's narrative. Because behind the scenes of this monumental viral fame, he was facing a really devastating, terrifying reality.
The walls were closing in.
Millions of people were using his words to heal their own trauma and find their own footing, yet he was practically suffocating under the weight of his own creation.
It's incredibly tragic when you think about it.
It is. I mean, he had written the literal anthem for self-discovery, but he didn't actually know how to love himself.
The disparity between his public, godlike status and his private human frailty just became entirely too heavy to carry. He was forced into a corner. When the gap between your external persona and your internal reality stretches that wide, something eventually snaps.
You can't sustain it forever.
No, you either completely dissociate and lose yourself in the character the world wants you to play, or you face the absolute void of your own internal landscape.
And Adam chose to face the void.
He did.
But this is where the story shifts from like a psychological breakdown to something intensely practical.
Right, because faced with this crisis, he realized he couldn't just keep reciting his own poem in the mirror and hoping it would magically cure him.
He had to figure out what it truly mechanically takes to build a relationship with himself from the ground up.
And this requires dismantling a major cultural myth. It really leads to the core epiphany of his entire journey.
Which is?
The realization that self-love is absolutely not a switch you can just flip on.
So what does this all mean for us? Because I am so glad we are talking about this.
It's a huge misconception.
It is. We constantly hear the phrase, just love yourself, treat it like it's a one-time decision you make while looking in the mirror.
Like you just decide one morning and that's it.
Right. The way the modern wellness industry packages mental health is incredibly frustrating. We are constantly sold this idea of the light bulb moment.
Oh, the classic light bulb moment.
Yeah, you go on a retreat, you read a specific self-help book, you have an emotional cry, and click, the switch is flipped.
And the trauma is supposedly gone.
Exactly. You now permanently love yourself. But calling it a relationship implies real work, maintenance, and even setbacks, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The switch analogy treats personal growth as a transaction rather than a transformation.
The transaction, that makes sense.
Yeah, because a switch is passive. Once you flip a light switch, it just stays on until someone physically turns it off. You don't have to think about it.
Right.
But human neurobiology and emotional regulation, they're incredibly dynamic, fluctuating systems. Adam realized that treating self-love as a static state of being is a setup for constant failure.
Because the moment you have a bad day or you criticize yourself, you feel like the switch is defective.
You feel like you broke the enlightenment.
Precisely. If it's a switch, any negative emotion is proof that you were broken again.
So he had to shift the entire paradigm.
Yeah.
He realized that self-love is not a state. It is a living, breathing relationship.
Okay, calling it a relationship completely changes the stakes.
How so?
Well, because a relationship implies real work. It implies friction, repair, vulnerability. If you think about the mechanics of how you maintain a healthy relationship with a romantic partner or a best friend.
You don't just tell them you love them on New Year's Day and then ignore them for the next 12 months.
Right. You have to actively prioritize them.
You listen to them when they are distressed.
You forgive them when they make mistakes.
Exactly. You set boundaries to protect them from harmful situations. You show up for them, even when it is wildly inconvenient.
And Adam realized that he had completely neglected to apply those exact same relational mechanics to himself.
And the framework he arrived at to rebuild this internal relationship is beautifully simple, but honestly, it sounds exhausting when you really think about applying it.
What did he say?
He stated that this relationship has to be built, quote, day by day, breath by breath, choice by choice.
Day by day, breath by breath, choice by choice. Wow.
Let's deeply unpack the neuroscience and psychology behind that specific framework, because it is the actual engine of his entire recovery.
Okay, let's do it.
This moves self-love from a passive, elusive emotional state into an active, disciplined, daily practice, and relies heavily on the concept of neuroplasticity.
Explain how neuroplasticity fits into the choice by choice idea.
Every time you make a choice about how you treat yourself, you are either reinforcing an old neural pathway or carving a new one.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you make a completely normal human mistake at work. For someone who lacks self-worth, the brain's default mode network instantly fires up the old pathway.
Which is brutal, unforgiving internal criticism.
Exactly. The switch mentality demands that you should just instantly feel positive.
Yeah.
But the choice by choice mentality forces you into the present moment.
It grounds you.
Right. It asks, right now, in this microsecond, how do I respond to myself?
So it's really about interrupting the default programming.
Yes, it's consciously interrupting.
You have to consciously decide, am I going to berate myself for the next hour, or am I going to offer myself the exact same grace I would immediately offer my best friend if they made this mistake?
Yes. And it is incredibly difficult at first because the critical pathway is like a smoothly paved highway.
And the self-compassion pathway.
It's like a dirt trail, totally overgrown with weeds. Choice by choice is the machete you use to clear the new path.
That's a great visual. And this plays out in microscopic ways, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's not just about grand declarations of self-worth. It's choosing to actually go to sleep instead of doom scrolling on your phone until 3 a.m.
Because you recognize your body desperately needs rest.
Right. It's choosing to leave a conversation that makes you feel small. It's deciding to feed yourself a decent meal instead of skipping lunch because you're stressed out.
Every single one of those actions is a microscopic vote cast for your own inherent value.
You are demonstrating to your nervous system through action that you are someone worth caring for.
And the breath-by-breath component of his framework, that acknowledges the reality of setbacks.
Because you are absolutely going to mess it up.
Oh, naturally.
You are going to have days where you fall right back into self-loathing.
And that is exactly where the relationship paradigm is so profoundly forgiving.
Because if self-love is a relationship...
But having a day where you feel terrible about yourself doesn't mean the relationship is destroyed. It just means you had an argument with yourself.
Oh, that reframing is massive.
Isn't it?
Yeah, an argument with a partner doesn't mean you immediately file for divorce. It means there is a rupture, and the rupture requires repair. You can apologize to yourself for being overly critical, figure out what triggered it, and just try again tomorrow.
The grace inherent in that approach is what finally allowed Adam to stabilize.
He let go of the perfection.
He moved away from the impossible burden of being a permanent, enlightened guru and accepted the messy daily work of being a human in a relationship with himself.
And that's what started to actually heal the void that the viral fame had exposed.
Precisely.
And what I find so compelling about his story is that he didn't just quietly figure this out, heal himself, and then, retreat to a quiet life in the woods.
No, he didn't hide.
The crisis and the subsequent rebuilding process actually became the raw material for his next massive evolution.
Because true integration of a traumatic or transformative experience usually pushes a person outward.
Outward in what way?
You move from focusing purely on your own survival to wondering how your survival blueprint might help others navigate the exact same storm.
Right. So he took this deeply personal development journey and blended it back into his art and his career.
He really did.
He evolved from being a solitary spoken word artist creating viral moments into becoming a conscious leader and an advocate for authentic self-expression.
He founded the Create community.
And he became the host of the Creative Path podcast. It's like he took the raw, chaotic energy from his own crisis and built a structural roadmap for everyone else.
Let's look at the mechanics of that transition, because there is a very distinct line between an artist who sparks an emotion and a leader who facilitates lasting structural change.
It's the difference between handing someone a beautifully drawn map of a mountain and actually putting on your hiking boots to walk the grueling trail right beside them.
That's a great way to put it.
The poem was the map. It showed everyone where they needed to go. But his new work, the coaching, the community, that is him facilitating the daily breath-by-breath practice of actually climbing the mountain.
And the reason his methodology as a transformational coach carries so much weight is because it stems directly from lived vulnerability. It is steeped in reality.
You really can't credibly lead someone through a psychological storm if you haven't nearly drowned in one yourself.
If Adam had successfully faked it, like if he had just leaned into the illusion of arrival, smiled for the cameras, and pretended that reaching 250 million people had permanently cured his insecurities,
his subsequent coaching would have been incredibly hollow.
People can unconsciously detect when a leader is teaching theory versus when a leader is teaching survival.
Absolutely. He isn't standing on a pedestal preaching down to the masses.
No.
He's saying, look, I reached the absolute pinnacle of external validation. I got the numbers, the praise, the global reach that everyone thinks they want.
And it almost broke him.
Right, because his internal foundation was rotten. He's saying, I don't have a magic switch to sell you, but I do have a relationship-building blueprint.
Which is the core tenet of conscious leadership. He now helps organizations and individuals understand that lasting creativity, purpose, and professional success absolutely cannot be sustained on a foundation of self-neglect.
It's impossible.
You cannot build towering, beautiful skyscrapers of public achievement if the psychological basement you live in is constantly flooding.
Looking back at the chronological flow of this narrative, the crisis triggered by the poem wasn't a tragic irony.
Not at all.
It was the necessary catalyst.
Without that massive, blinding spotlight, without the overwhelming friction of 250 million people projecting perfection onto him.
He might have just ignored the problem.
Exactly. He might have been able to successfully ignore his internal void for the rest of his life. The success didn't solve his problem, but it made the problem impossible to ignore.
It forcefully burned away the illusion that achieving massive external goals will eventually substitute for doing the internal work.
It never substitutes.
So bringing this entire journey together for you listening right now, we traced an incredible arc today.
A really powerful one.
We started at the dizzying, almost unimaginable heights of global virality, a moment where a singular message about self-worth touched hundreds of millions of lives.
Creating profound connection for the world, but creating a devastating, isolating trap for the creator.
We moved from that external triumph into the grounding, humbling reality of a psychological crisis, the realization that understanding a concept intellectually,
Even writing the definitive anthem about it.
right, is completely different from embodying it functionally.
Which thoroughly shattered the myth of the switch.
It destroyed the dangerous, culturally pervasive idea that self-love is an instant, passive state of being granted by external success.
Or a viral moment or a fleeting epiphany.
And finally, we explored the structural truth of what it actually takes to become whole.
The neurological and psychological reality that self-love is an ongoing living relationship.
A disciplined practice built day by day, breath by breath, choice by microscopic choice.
Adam Rowe's story is a stark reminder that external achievements, no matter how massive, no matter how many people applaud you, can never flip an internal switch.
The external world can only ever reflect the strength or the severe fragility of the foundation you have actively built inside yourself.
The shift from seeking an illusion of arrival to embracing the reality of continuous maintenance, that is the only way to build a foundation that actually lasts.
Which leaves us with a lingering question for you to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
It's a good one to reflect on.
We've talked extensively about how building this crucial relationship with yourself happens not in the grand sweeping moments of your life, but in the tiny, microscopic, easily forgotten decisions.
The choices.
Exactly. So look back over your last 24 hours. If self-love truly is an active, ongoing relationship built choice by choice,
What is it?
what is one tiny, seemingly insignificant choice you made today that either actively built up or quietly tore down that relationship with yourself?